What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you are with us. Daniel Aaron here, your guide to vibrant living, the host of this show. And what do you think? I was just listening to the introduction to the show, and it says most people are living quiet lives of desperation. Is that too much? Is that too harsh, do you think, as an assessment? Well, it depends, right? Because it depends on what you compare it to. What is normal? What do we settle for? And what this show is all about, whatever way you say that the normalcy of life is for most people, it's not what it could be. It's not vibrant. It's not passionate. It's not success. It's not freedom on the level that everybody knows in their heart and in their bones is possible. So this show and all of my work is all about empowering people to really create their lives into masterpieces. That's what I do in my coaching work. And on this show, we get to talk with amazing people. Today's show particularly is off the charts with richness, with value, with amazingness. My guest today, Jason McNamara, is a man who figured out, right? Who figured out how to live, how the universe works. And he didn't do that from a silver spoon or a crystal ball. He came from some rough beginnings, from a rough family, from a rough neighborhood, from poverty. He pulled himself up. He took action in his life. He faced some really big challenges, both in terms of his work in the military, in terms of his work with his own family, becoming an entrepreneur, developing financial independence, and then developing a way to empower other people to really create freedom, both financially and spiritually. So his story is so amazing. I'm not going to say more because it's better you hear it directly from him. Phenomenal person. We're lucky to have him on the show. Jason, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here. Howdy, everybody.
Yeah. Well, and we are lucky today, too. We've got a special guest in the outdoor studio. John, Jason's son, is hanging out with us. So awesome. Welcome, John. And Jason, there's a lot that you bring to the table here, and we could talk for 3 hours just about your story because it's so interesting and phenomenal and so many lessons. But would you be up for saying just a little bit about, I teased the audience a little bit about your experience, but when we first met, you gave some, in a 20-second introduction, some things where everybody's leaning in, like what Guantanamo Bay, military discharge. So would you say a little bit about how you got to be where you are?
Absolutely. And I practice it so much that I can say it relatively quickly. So if I skip any points that you want to circle back to, just let me know. So I'll be impactful with the time. So I was born in the Caribbean. I grew up in South Florida. And like Daniel said, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. My mom and dad divorced. My mom worked overnight shifts at the hospital. And a lot of times I was kind of by myself, left to fend for myself as an only child. But ultimately, that taught me a lot. That taught me how to deal with myself, how to talk to myself, how to think for myself, and how to provide for myself. And I'm forever grateful for it. Later on in life, as I started growing older, I knew I wanted more. I always did good in school. I was always motivated to work and make money. And I wanted to join the military to change my future. And because of the love I had for my country, really make a difference. I joined the Navy and I went to school to be an aviation technician, and I volunteered to go to Guantanamo Bay doing detainee operations as a prison guard. While there, I worked hard, tirelessly, did a lot of things, not everything I could talk about, including assisting with CIA interrogations. I got out of the military shortly after that, honorably discharged, and started living the American dream. I started going back to school full time, started working. I took a job as a work study with the Department of Economic Opportunity, helping veterans overcome barriers to employment that ended up resulting in full-time employment. We broke records for getting veterans jobs, helping them do better and transition from the military back home, even going into the woods to find homeless veterans to get them services that they needed. And while I loved that job, it was hugely intrinsically rewarding. It did not pay well. And I remember living in my first house and I had an HOA and I wanted to plant an orange tree. And the HOA told me no. They said, you can't plant an orange tree without our permission. And it was at that point I realized I needed to make more money for my family so we could pick our own oranges because they're not cheap, even if you live in South Florida. So I decided to take a job in sales. And after 7 years, I was able to effectively retire early as the company's #1 residential salesperson. But I was able to retire early, not just because I was good at sales, but because I had discipline to save, earn, and invest my money. So I invested in multiple passive income streams that then allowed me to transform. And that will bring the next leg of my story. But I don't know if you want me to keep going or just take a pause right there.
Well, let's keep going. I mean, well, actually, I guess we will take a quick pause since you introduced it there. It's something that I want to highlight, which is very cool here. A lot of the people that tune into what I'm doing in this show, right? The military seems like a different world. For a lot of people that are sort of spiritual or maybe even consider themselves pacifists, the military seems like a foreign world. But I really get for you at that time, it was a place where it was a way to develop yourself. It was a way to move forward and to learn. And this is something that I've found over many years. Some of the people that I admire most and connect with most have come through the military. Don't necessarily stay there forever, but there they learn service and they learn discipline. And you mentioned discipline specifically around what enabled you to retire, right? And it wasn't just that you made a lot of money, because we all know that, well, making money is unto itself a great gift and something worthy of having, but it alone does not relate to freedom necessarily. It takes discipline. And I remember as a
Absolutely.
kid, I didn't have discipline. And it wasn't until later on when I got into spirituality and martial arts and yoga that I learned about discipline, and then realized that it's actually discipline and freedom. Though they seemed to me in my youth, they seemed like they were opposite. The truth is that without discipline, there is no freedom, right? So I love that you brought that forward as an important part of your experience, right? And that you went into the military and you didn't just go in and say, all right, I'm going to use this as my ticket. You went in and did your best with it and rose up because you poured yourself into it, right? And that's a key spiritual lesson for all of us: is we can't go further in our life until we master what is in front of us, what we're working with, right? And I've seen that that's a part of your character. That's part of who you've developed yourself to be, which I'm sure we'll see in the next part of the journey. So I just want to highlight those pieces before you go on. I'm excited though for you to share more of the experience and the story.
Absolutely. The discipline is incredibly important, and so is service. And real quick, before I go on to the next part of the story, I think for me, it was, even though the things I were doing weren't necessarily my passion, everything I did, whenever I showed up, I would still show up as my best self. Even if it wasn't my passion, knowing who I am and where I'm going in life, while this may not be where I'm headed, this is where I am now. So there is no point not to do my best at absolutely everything wherever I'm at. Um, so after COVID hit and we started early retirement, we started homeschooling the kids. I've always grown my own food in certain capacities. We have 5 acres out in South Florida, and we have honeybees and a pond stocked with fish and grow our fruit trees everywhere. It's beautiful. We started some nonprofits locally, giving back to the community in terms of other veterans or brothers and sisters, the poor and the youth. And then we started some for-profit companies. Started investing in a company that had a mission to give people digital marketing training for free, and to really help business owners and entrepreneurs get some results without having to put in much upfront capital or effort. And then we evolved and built several other companies, including Rock You Academy, JV Jams, the Transform Your Life TV network, all kind of centered around helping healers, coaches, authors, intuitives really do the marketing and tech implementation. Because a lot of these people watching are absolutely incredible. They have amazing capabilities of helping people, but they don't know how to get in front of the right people. So we figured out how to do that, and we wanted to help them do that. And then from there, I started something called the No More 9 to 5 Club. And I say I, but it's we. It's a collaborative thing. It's a community thing. And we started off with a whole bunch of common sense. I was telling you a little bit about some of the trainings we had: financial literacy training, wealth mindset training, social and emotional intelligence training, stoicism training. But it's really evolved. We don't want to just help people save, earn, and invest money. We don't want to just help them live healthier and happier, network better. The club is evolving to the foundation of what somebody needs to really set themselves free. When we can really focus on that vibrational alignment, the foundation of knowing who they are, knowing what they're after, and actually having that discipline that we all need to go after it consistently, to go after it without fail, that's where the club is right now. And all these other businesses are all kind of an ecosystem that support everything else that we're doing. So since we launched the No More 9 to 5 Club, also launched the No More 9 to 5 Foundation. So every single thing that we've done has been meant to put people in a better position, to make their lives better, to make a bigger impact to our audience. And I think that's why we're getting a lot of attention. You know, we have a lot of great reviews, and ultimately, that's what motivates me, because I was already wealthy before I became financially wealthy. In my mindset, with my family, with my health, the finances were an after effect of that. So if we can get everybody else where they need to be right now, the rest of it's going to fall into place easier.
That's perfect. Really nicely said, and and points to the huge lesson and important understanding for all of us that you have to create it inside yourself before you can create it out in the world. And and I love about what you're doing with the 9 to 5 Club and other activities that you're in, which is really about helping people get the information and experience they need to create their lives into what they can be. So, a question then for you, because this is a question I think about a lot. For me, I've been my whole life, I've had one foot. Actually, I was going to say my whole life. That's not true. Before age 25, I didn't know anything about spirituality. At least I hadn't discovered it yet in this lifetime. But around my mid 20s, I had something of a spiritual awakening. Since then, I've had one foot in the world of spirituality and another foot in the world of entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship's always been part of my life since I was, I don't know, 8 years old when I got my first business going. And as I've gone forward in creating what I create in my work and the way I work with people, and even the name of the show and my business, The Art of Vibrant Living, I have this very strong sense that entrepreneurship, or creating one's life the way one wants, is fundamental to vibrant living, to creating an amazing life. What's your sense of that in terms of, right? Because the 9 to 5 Club obviously implies, like, hey, you don't necessarily have to have a job your whole life, even though that's what we've been sold, even though that's what education really tends to prepare people for, or some forms of education anyway. But what's your sense of vibrant living as related to entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I want to say that entrepreneurship is not always easy for everybody. A lot of people step into entrepreneurship and they think it's a get rich quick scheme, or I'm just going to do this and I'm going to change the world. It's a lot more work than people know. But going to a job every single day that you're not passionate about, trading your time for money, and living that life of desperation that we saw at the beginning, that is definitely not the way either. So in order for somebody to really, like you did it perfect, you had your awakening, you had your alignment, and you knew that you could take your passions, share them with the world. And of course, along the journey, we learn what needs to be learned to succeed. But for a lot of people, they're stuck with a lack of confidence that they can do what they need to do. They're stuck trading their time for money and ultimately not getting the results, not pursuing their passions and finding out who they are at the core. Who are you as a person? How is it that you like to help people? When you understand money is only an exchange of value, that you need to go out and exchange your value to get paid, And if you don't feel that you are valuable enough to get paid, let's reinvest back in yourself. People don't realize time is that one resource. While we're all taught to live in the now, we got to think about the future. Like, I know if I'm going to be hungry tomorrow and my fridge is empty, I should go to the grocery store now. So if you think about that, if you keep in mind Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you got to get those bottom levels of the pyramid taken care of to really ascend to the top. It's the same thing with finances and work and everything else. You have to have that foundation down packed. You have to know who you are and how you can help people, and you have to be confident about it. Because if you're not able to help yourself confidently, then you probably shouldn't give that advice to somebody else.
Awesome. Yes, 100% with you. And you brought up a great point, right? Because one of the things that we can tell from you is that you've got confidence, right? And was it always that way? Were you born that way? Did you have it as a little boy, or is it something that developed?
I would say that this is something I definitely developed and fine tuned over the years. I was a skinny kid growing up, and I grew up in an awkward situation. So there was a time where I was an only child and a little bit socially awkward. But in the neighborhood I grew up in, when I started going outside, that had to transition quickly. I couldn't be the nerdy kid in that neighborhood, so I had to grow up fighting. I had to grow up doing other things, and after you go through a certain amount of things, and you start training. Like I went to boxing class and I did all those things I needed to do so I could have confidence. It just comes naturally now. I'm at the point where everything that I set my mind to, whatever I intend on achieving, I set time aside in my schedule and I make it happen. And if I don't set time aside in my schedule, then I didn't actually intend to do it.
Absolutely. Well, so you're an influence on a lot of people. How do you help people to develop that confidence if they didn't have it, if they haven't developed it yet? Because we know it's and as you said, it's not something for a lot of people that comes naturally. We're not necessarily born with it. It is something that can be developed. How to help people with that?
Well, I'm working on a lot of different ways. I just finished my MBA a few weeks ago, and for I'd say the last couple of classes and recently, I've really been jumping into NLP, quantum, and a bunch of other things that weren't on the MBA task list. When I hear people talk and I sense their words, their emotions, and everything behind it, I correct people. I do it tactfully. I don't try to hurt anybody's feelings, but I let people know where they're wrong. If they say, I can't do this, but I want to do this, I let them know, hey, your language is not conducive of you getting anything done. So if I'm going to help you, please don't say that anymore, because that's not the direction we're going. You said you want to do this, and I'm here to help you do it. So don't say you can't do it, because you absolutely can.
Well, so let me interrupt and play angel's advocate for a moment. I love that, first of all, that you do that. And I know from my own experience, but I'm curious to hear your experience, right? I correct people, I stop them from that. Some people are going to react to that. Some people don't want that. And have you encountered that? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I've encountered just about every type of personality you can think of. And when I find people who don't want results or they don't want to confront reality, I let them know that they're not my cup of tea, respectfully. I'm here to get things done. If they need a counselor to lie to them, I'm not the guy. I won't do that for free or for any amount of money. I'm really, really, I have to keep it real, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to sleep with myself well. So I guess I deal with those people just by letting them know where I'm at. And if they want to continue conversating with me, letting them know my thoughts and stances on everything.
That's awesome. I remember years ago, I had a business in Bali, and at the time, a bunch of employees, and I had one guy from Sumatra who worked for me for years. Really interesting character. And somebody said to him once, "I can't believe you still work with Daniel. It's been like 10 years you work with him." And the guys, and I had a reputation for not being that easy to work with, which I've learned some things since then. Hopefully, one of the things he said really struck me. I was like, "Oh, what did you say?" He said, "Well, if you want to grow, if you want to improve, then it's great working with Daniel. But if you don't, then it's not going to work so well." So, I feel like you've got that same point really clear in yourself. Like, this is who I am. I don't want to mess around. If you want to get sugar coated fantasy stories wherever you get it, totally up to you. But that's not my cup of tea. That's not what this is about. bless you on your way. Am I hearing that right?
100%. There's plenty of coaches that are willing to take your money and just keep taking it for no results. When we started the No More 9 to 5 Club, it was completely free. We didn't have a single paid program. I felt like I didn't need the money and still do. Obviously, we're not building any of these to get rich. Like I said, the goal is to make a very large impact in the world. So when it comes to people and their time, I respect my time, and I honor my integrity and who I am more than anybody else's dollar signs or desires. So when it comes to that, like I said, I'm very tactful and respectful, but I also will let somebody know that, hey, you're in my circle or you're not. Like, we're gonna do this or we're not. We're gonna win or we're not. Like, either way, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, like traveling through the state with my boy to our Airbnb and being able to pull over on the side of the road at a nature park to have an interview with Daniel.
Yeah, well, and it's great modeling what you're doing, because I think some of our audience, part of, I meet so many people that are in jobs, and nothing wrong with a job if that's what you're into and if that's what works for you. And obviously, there are some advantages there to having a sense of certainty, to not having to think about things, to having regularity. That might sound a little insulting, to not have to think about things, but but on some level, that's what being an employee is about. You don't have to, you get to just follow directions. And sometimes that's great. Like, sometimes in my life, I like to just follow directions. And I know that there's a different part of me that says, no, I want to create my life. I want to create my business. And since I've been a kid, it's never worked for me to be an employee. I've always wanted to create my own thing. Um, so I think for a lot of the people that tune in here, what you're modeling and what you're showing is, not only is there another alternative, it's possible for everybody. It takes some learning, it takes some development. So will you say more then about, I mean, it sounds like the No More 9 to 5 Club is really an opportunity for people. And, like, what more can you say about why you created it and what the opportunity is for people?
Sure. So, well, I grew up not with the silver spoon, and some of the people I grew up with, everybody I grew up with, it's absolutely amazing. Some of the people I grew up with, I kept in close contact with, and we exchange vibes and ideas. And some of those same people are business owners and homeowners, and some of the people we kind of didn't hang out with as much, and some of those guys ended up dead or in prison. So sometimes people, when they're in jail, they start reaching out to old contacts, including me. Hey, Jason, I heard you have money. I need money. And I'm the type of guy that wants to teach a man how to fish. I don't want to give him my fish. There's too many people that need fish, but if I can teach them all how to fish for themselves, then maybe they can teach others. So that's my initial spark of why I wanted to build this, because I had people that were asking me for things because I had them. And I know that I'm not welfare. I can't take care of everybody. So I wanted to show them how to take care of themselves. And that's what sparked this. When we first built this, we had free training that included financial literacy, wealth mindset training, social and emotional intelligence training, character development training, alpha training, stoicism training, and trusted advisor training. I'm not sure if I said that one twice, but nonetheless, we had a savings section, an earnings section, and a wealth building section to teach people the true path to financial freedom isn't email marketing or affiliate marketing or writing a book. It's just learning how to save your own money and invest it to start multiple passive income streams. Another piece of advice I give people, and this is a little unrelated off topic, is do not quit your day job. If those are keeping you and your family fed, if those are paying your bills, keep doing that. And if you're trying to start a side hustle and it's not working, don't think that you have to make a bunch of money right away. Go back to the investment board, invest in your own education, figure out what's working, find some mentors that are doing it, and start again. It's never ever too late to start again. So anyways, back to the No More 9 to 5 Club. I not needing to spend all my money. I didn't need to go on fancy cruise ships or drive a Cadillac or, buy lobster dinners with my bonus checks. I wanted to invest those in other houses and stocks and different income producing assets that were going to give me a passive return so I could go on vacation and move accordingly. So what the club has actually evolved to, we've realized that those 8 core pillars I mentioned earlier, people don't really need much training if we can get the foundational alignment correct. If they know who they are, they know their why, they know their skill sets, and they know where they want to go in life, those other things are going to come way, way easier than them just coming up to me and saying, Jason, I just want to quit my job. It's miserable there. So that's the evolution of the club in a nutshell. I lost you, Daniel. You're muted.
Thank you. All right. That I love what you said, and I'll jump back to something you said earlier, or you kind of alluded to earlier, which is, so you came from this rough environment, and being a skinny, nerdy kid didn't work. So you had to like develop your confidence, develop yourself physically, and you did that. And sometimes I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I've had the association before that coming from a rough place or even joining the military is developing a certain level of physical prowess, physical ability, but isn't necessarily related to intellectual abilities, right? But something else you did is you developed yourself physically, and then you also said, I am smart, and you really invested in your own education, in terms of formal education. And congratulations on finishing your MBA. That's awesome. And in your informal or your life studies. So, what's been your journey with learning, and how does that relate to vibrant living?
Absolutely. Um, where do I start? So I've always been somewhat book smart, but also street smart as well. I'm good at speaking to people. I'm an empath. I can understand people very, very well. In the 10th grade, I got in trouble with my math teacher because I turned in a test with no work written before everybody else, and I got 100. And he was mad at me and told me I cheated. And he called me to the back, and I explained to him I didn't, that I did it all in my head. And then he gave me some other problems that he made up on the spot, and I did them in my head. And then he let me go to lunch early that day because he saw that I really did do it in my head. I didn't cheat. And he asked me to take the American mathematics competition test that year, and I beat the entire school, all the 10th, 11th, 12th graders. And the next year, I was dual enrolled in college, so I wasn't even in any math class at the high school anymore. So I've always done good as far as excelling at understanding things the first time. Um, the KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid. I try not to overthink things. I take things at face value for what they are, and I don't second guess or question my intuition. So when it comes to knowledge, I got to be honest, I've learned so much more from the real world from other people than I ever did from any school book. From the time I started college to my bachelor's degree, I felt like I was just showing up to take the test to put down the answers that I already knew without having to show up at class or read the book because it was all natural. Like everything that they were teaching, I already knew it. I felt like I assumed that it was there. And then obviously now later on in life, I learn more about the universe, about source. And I really feel that it's really, really easy to tap in when you have that confidence, when you have that understanding, and you have that power, that dedication in your heart of who you are and where you're going, to not second guess yourself. But you need that first.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And what an amazing experience as a kid to have the math teacher get mad at you, right? With the assumption of guilt until proven innocent. But luckily you didn't react too negatively, and you're able to keep yourself composed that you could still pass the next tests and go on, right? Allowing that teacher to sort of, I would say, correct their misassumption in the first place, and to go forward and develop that ability. And part of what I heard in your description too is a great quotation I learned years ago from one of my teachers and heroes, Ram Dass, and he said, "I've been with some of the smartest people in the world and some of the wisest people in the world. You know what the difference is? Well, the wise ones are also happy, right?" And part of what I heard you say in there is like, yeah, I got intellectual abilities, but I also try and keep it simple. I do keep it simple, right? Which allows that to say, because there's this other thing that can happen. There's a whole body of work called the drama of the gifted child, and there's this section of society that is so developed intellectually that they end up in a lot of pain. Like what was that? A Beautiful Mind is a movie that kind of points to that in a way, right? People that can be really smart up here but don't know how to relate to the world end up in a lot of trouble, I think, in a lot of pain, right? So it's cool that you brought that forward and developed that balance of, yes, I got smarts here, I got street smarts, and it's practical. how do I use this in my life to make my life better and to make the world a better place? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. It really is a balance. So when we're out trying to manifest our destinies, when we're out trying to be the best selves that we can be, you can't overcomplicate things. I think there was a point where I was I was having anxiety myself. I was on the search for answers and results because I had my dream. I said, I'm going to build this no more 9 to 5 club. I'm going to help people, and I'm going to very, very quickly learn the skills of digital marketing, learn the skills of speaking from stage, learn a whole bunch of different skill sets while I was getting my MBA and doing a bunch of other stuff. So when you tend to overwhelm yourself with the search of knowledge, that can be devastating. So you need to always take a step back. It's great to invest in yourself, great to invest in your education and learning and discovery, but you have to have balance at all times. You have to make sure that your family's good. You have to make sure that you're good. And I see a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that will pour into their own education, pour into their own family, pour into everything else around them except for themselves. Their cup is empty. Their cup is it has a hole at the bottom. So my message to people is find that balance. You know, it's good to have to look for the answers, but I find confidence in knowing that there is so much that I don't know. But when I need to know it, I'll find out about it and I'll learn about it and I'll figure it out.
Well, that's huge. I mean, it's huge to have that confidence to 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 know that you can learn, right? And I remember years ago, was it I think it was Henry Ford, right? Henry Ford was we were talking about earlier, he was attacked, right? Attacked for um, people were saying he was not smart because he didn't have formal education, and part of his quote defense was, I don't need to know a whole bunch of useless facts. I need to know how to learn the things or to bring the people around me that know the things so that I can get ahead in my life, so that I can create what I want. Um, and something else that I'm curious about that we've kind of alluded to here, well, actually, no, before I go to that, because you just said something really important when talking about balance, right? And you said when you're going in your MBA and then you decided to do this and you decided to do that, and you got overwhelmed at a certain point. So you're kind of giving the advice, the suggestion that you got to keep yourself in balance. You got to keep yourself fulfilled or your own cup full. So again, angel's advocate on the other side, so many people I see, and this is something I work with clients on a lot, is they way underestimate what they're capable of, right?
Mhm.
And produce a lot less than they are capable of. And I'm not suggesting by any means that people should put themselves into exhaustion. Well, maybe at times, but not put themselves into overwhelm and exhaustion and overpromise so they can't do things. Yet at the same time, something that I've seen consistently from what you've done is you said, I can do this, I can do this, and you put yourself forward. I mean, you've accomplished more at your young age than a lot of people accomplish in their whole lives. So what do you think about the balance of keeping your own cup full, but also doing things in the world and taking action and fulfilling on your potential?
All right, so I have a good answer for this. It's called noticing. Noticing what is serving you, noticing where your time, where your money, where your benefits are, and also being able to make change. Noticing how you need to say no to certain people or certain things because they don't fit with the narrative of your future. So a lot of people, I hear people talking about focus on income producing activities, right? Well, income producing activities are great, but let's be honest. If you show up to work and your hair is not done, you have bad breath, you have holes in your clothes, they might fire you. So income producing activities aren't everything. Laying the foundation for you as a successful person so you can show up to those income producing activities at 100%, well, that just made that income producing activity that much more effective. Notice which one of those are doing the best for you and make sure that you're laying the prep work and foundation to show up correctly.
That's fantastic. 100% with you. Okay, so how do I want to say this? Like, here's one of my assumptions, and I'm just going to lay this out real quick, and then I want to hear what you would do with this. Like my assumption is, and my experience, to create a vibrant life, to create an amazing life, one has to be moving toward mastery. Doesn't mean having mastered, because there's always more to learn and grow, but in the levels of physical vitality, emotional flourishing, relationships, our relationship with time itself, our livelihood, our spirituality, our financial life. Like we got to be in all of these areas continually developing and getting some level of competence. Yet, part of what you just suggested is sometimes people really lose it. They don't notice what's happening, or how people are perceiving them. But how do you do that, and how do you help people with that kind of balance, if that makes sense?
Sure. Well, when we first started the club, we gave people what we call a daily action plan. And it was just a template that was meant to really make sure that people are crossing their T's and dotting their I's. It had self care in there, it had exercise in there, it had all types of reminders about gratitude and family time. So, making sure that, if I'm meeting a client, I want to know who they are, what's important to them, and what things are going to go with them in their future. And the idea here is to figure out which activities are going to be effective in that future version of themselves, and which activities um, probably need to change or be let go. So it's really always custom tailored. As you know, different people have different goals, different people have different disabilities or hurdles. So it's really up to the individual user on where they want to go in life and what's most important to them to figure out that daily action plan. But figuring that out is important, and having the flexibility to adapt, because let's be honest, sometimes our plans change. I might say I'm going here this week, but somebody calls me and I might be flying somewhere else next week. So we have to know about what we're doing, who we want to be, and where we're going in life to make an effective plan.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. And we have to be able to adjust. We have to be able to recalibrate, to notice what's going on, what's working. And you said this in a couple different ways. So I want to bring it back and get some more from you on this. For me, a huge part of the way I work for myself and with clients, the foundation of everything is what we could call being, right? And you've said it in a couple different ways, but knowing who you are, right? And the flip side we'll get to, knowing where you're going, but knowing who you are, right? Well, that opens up an interesting can of worms in a sense, because a lot of us grew up with a perspective that, well, who you are, well, that's something that is molded, maybe genetic, maybe passed on, maybe formed when you were young, but that's something that is solid. Who you are is solid. It's not something that can be created. Now, I know that that's not the limited perspective that you hold because of what you've created in your life. I know that that who you are, or your being, is something that's creative. But let me check with you. What sense do you make about that? And what would you say in terms of being?
So I love being. So the now, the moment, this is the moment that we have to make a decision on who we are and what the rest of our lives will be like. And a lot of people come to me and they tell me about who they want to be, but their behaviors in the now don't line up to that. So that's not truly who they want to be. So me, I wanted to be somebody who was financially independent, somebody who could be there for my family and the people I care about, and really be a huge supporter and advocate for my community. So I made sure that I became that. And when I achieved that, I decided I wanted to be that person, but continue evolving. I wanted to be a person who could help other people do that same thing. So my being is a culmination of my choices, and my choices are based off of who I know I am in the moment. Because when I envisioned myself when I was 30 about who I would be when I was 35 is completely different than where I actually ended up being at 35. I achieved everything faster because I put my mind to it. When I committed to something, I said, this is what I want to do. And I would just go right after it. But still maintain that balance. That's why I have a schedule. I have a phone with the calendar. It stays on do not disturb. And I'll just, even if it's just blocking off 1 or 2 hours a day or twice a week, I continuously build momentum towards my goals because that's part of who I am.
Beautiful. Well, so let's take this back a minute, because I think this is a hugely important thing, and you've developed so much, and you may not even, I don't know, but you may not even realize sort of the genius that you have in this regard. Sometimes when something comes to us naturally, we don't know how we did it. You may or may not, I don't know. But for you growing up in a rough situation, and I know you've only kind of scratched the surface, and there's a lot more you could say about it, and people would be probably shocked in certain ways, but growing a lot of times what happens is somebody grows up in a rough situation. They can't see outside of that box. They can't see a different future, right? And this is the classic archetype of somebody that grows up in the ghetto or the projects. They don't see people living free. They don't see people investing in real estate. They don't see that reality, so it doesn't occur to them, oh, that's an option, I could become that. What they see modeled around them is just what's right in front of them, right? So you clearly have had an ability to say, this is who I want to become, and then get your actions to line up with that being rather than who you had been or what you saw around you. So is there anything you can say about how you did that or how other people can do that?
Sure. So one of the things that I'll touch on is when we're younger, we're definitely molded by the environment around us. I noticed the type of people that were around me, and some people had power, and some people gave up all their power. Some people chose drugs. Some people, chased women or whatever it is that they chase. And I essentially sum that up into short-term dopamine boost. But I was able to look at people and really start noticing the people who actually had happiness, success, power, and influence. They didn't chase any of those things. They chased their own goals. They did what they needed to do to provide for themselves, to better their own lives. And I realized those were the cool people. When I was looking around, I was like, wow, that guy, he just came in and out and he's got his stuff together and his life is great. That sounds like a type of person I would like to ask some questions about what they're doing in life so I can figure it out, because I didn't want to be like the other people whose lives I definitely didn't want to model. So I started noticing that, and I started just being attracted to successful, influential people who were able to accomplish whatever they set their minds to. I became attracted to those people to figure out what they did. And somewhere along the line, I just realized, I said, in order for me to do the things that I want to do, I can't chase any of those other things. I need to chase myself. When you chase yourself, when you chase the best version of yourself, you're going to get it.
Yeah, well, that's super smart of you as a kid to be able to have that discernment. Like, hey, you know what? These are not people that I want to learn from. I don't like the way their life is going. These people I want to learn from. And still, a lot of I think a lot of kids and a lot of adults like can see that, but they don't necessarily take the initiative to say, I want to learn from that person. Like we were talking earlier about Napoleon Hill, right? And
Mhm.
you learned about the principles that are there in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Before you got to the book, you realized like these are principles for how the way the world works, and you started living those principles. But even if you take, his story, growing up poor, but then having one person sort of see the light in him, see the potential in him, and he was able to say, all right, let me pay attention. Let me get some of that information there. So, well, I guess, our time is flying along. And what haven't I asked you about so far? Or is there anything I haven't asked you about or that you want to bring forward to the audience, in terms of where you're going, or what do you think is most important for people to know?
Sure. So, first of all, you've done an amazing job. You've asked all the right questions. There was nothing left unsaid as far as that goes, but we can definitely talk more. Uh, the future of the world is at stake. It's in all of our hands. What I tell my sons all the time. I say, we're gifted an amazing opportunity here to embrace the now, to embrace our society, and it's important to take that term society and really use it. Community, all those things are important. I'm going to go back to Henry Ford. Henry Ford is super successful, not because he knew everything, but because he knew that if he picked up the phone and talked to the right people, he could just about get any answer he needed. And the same goes true of community. So a lot of people, they're in their shelter, they're afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to put those high vibration goals out into the ether. Don't be afraid to shout it from the top of your lungs at the rooftop to everybody who's willing to listen, because the people that care about you, the people that resonate with your goals and your mission, they're going to show up. And there's a lot more good people in this world than bad people. There's a lot more good energy in this universe than bad, or at least if there isn't, I like to focus on the good, so I see the good energy winning. Um, the the world that we have to come together as one. You know, essentially, with the internet, with everything that we have, all the innovations, there is no excuse that somebody should be sitting at home watching the show on their computer and not reaching out because they're in desperation or they have needs, or they're not getting the results. Those people, if you're watching this and you need help, get it. Ask Daniel, ask myself, ask us for help. That's what we're here for. We're here to mentor each other. And I mean, that's the big thing for me, community, making sure that people are stepping back out of that post-COVID shell. They're not afraid to speak. A lot of people are shy, or they've been conditioned to not ask for help or not seem needy, or they're afraid to ask for help because they think somebody's going to ask them for money. Get rid of all of those beliefs. Be the best version of yourself and don't be shy. I want to add that at least.
Hallelujah. That's beautifully said. Well, two quotations come to mind for me as you say that. One is I think about this amazing thing that was it Goethe or was it W.R. Murray? I don't know. There's some argument about who actually said this, but it doesn't matter who said it. The words are, right? There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one commits oneself, then providence moves too, right? And we could go on to the rest of it, but the part that everybody knows is boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it now. So part of what I heard you said, and part of why I love that quotation, it's always been a touchstone for me, is speak it, ask for the help, take the step, know that whatever you dream of, whatever you want, it's possible. It's very unlikely that you're going to get it unless you do something, unless you speak up, unless you ask for help. And the other piece that I connect to it is something that's another of me, one of the most amazing things ever said. This was from Muhammad Ali, the great boxer. He said, I said I was the greatest fighter in the world long before I was, and long before I believed it myself, right? And that second part, like he said it before he even believed it himself, right? And that, right, that's courage and that's commitment, right? And he didn't necessarily have the confidence at that point, but because he'd put himself out like that and put himself on the line, he declared what he wanted, who he wanted to be, then the courage came from the actions, right? From putting himself in the situations. So to me, that's a lot of what you're saying, and so wisely said, that everything is possible, and you got to take a step. You got to ask. You got to do something. Is that making sense to you?
Absolutely. And you know, you saying that reminded me of something that I learned growing up. Should have put that as part of my childhood story. I learned at a very young age that if you don't ask a question, the answer is no. So I learned at a very young age that I can ask a question, questions that maybe some people would think would be taboo or offensive. But if I wanted to ask the question, I would. Because if you don't ask that question, the answer 100% of the time is no. And you would not imagine how many doors opened up because I was able to be bold, because I was able to say what I wanted. People would look at me, and maybe even a few people might have been slightly offended for a second, the audacity. But then they understood and they were like, yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Well,
So
and I think 90% of the time when people are bothered by that kind of courageous action, that asking, that saying what's there for you, it's because they want to do the same thing, right? We all want to so trust ourselves and our impulses, because as Hafez said, every desire of your body is holy. Everybody wants to do that, but then comes in some self-judgment, some denial, some messaging that, you're not supposed to do that. You shouldn't do that. This is what's appropriate. So then you come along and just be yourself and trust and have the courage to just say what you want. That's modeling for them what's possible that they're not doing. So then they tell you you shouldn't do it.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? You made me also just now think about the free gift that we have, and an ask that I have for the audience.
Please.
Guys, we have all types of amazing training, amazing people, networking events inside of the No More 9 to 5 Club, tools to help you guys do better. We have a free trial of the basic membership. It lasts 30 days, and you'll get on our email list. I'm going to ask all of you guys to sign up for that, even if you don't want to pay after the free trial of the 30 days. It's $30 a month after that. Come join us. I'm going to will that I'm going to see a lot of Daniel's friends and followers at our next networking event, so that you guys can be a part of the No More 9 to 5 Club and see what we have in store for you.
Beautiful. Well, that's, it's such a great gift. And it reminds me of when shortly after I had my awakening experience, and I realized, like, man, I do not know how to be spirit in human form. I got to learn this. I moved to this center in upstate New York, Holistic Learning Center. And the deal I got there was that I had a place to put my tent and I had food given to me, and I worked 30 hours a week. I didn't have any pay, though there were a whole bunch of classes that I could go to. And I was in heaven. Like, I thought I had won the lottery. I had so much appreciation for the deal I got. And I saw so many people around me, like, this is like slave labor, man. They're just getting me to do all this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, like, dude, there's so much here you can take advantage of. So I know that you make that generous offer, and some people will be like, oh, well, it's free, so it's not worthwhile, or, I'm not going to take advantage of it. But some people I know are going to be wise enough to say, man, all right, let me see what I can learn. Let me see how I can use this and develop myself. So that's beautiful. And what's the best way for people to take advantage of that?
Um, I mean, they can go to I think reaching out to Daniel to get the link would probably be the best way, the best direct way. There's no link that we have out that's public for people to take advantage of this offer. And I want to say one more thing on the free trial. Even
Yeah.
though it is a free trial, in order to get to the riches of what the No More 9 to 5 Club has to offer, it's not going to cost you money, but it is going to cost you some time
Mm.
and some proof that you're worthy.
So what does that mean? Proof that you're worthy?
So when you and I met, we could explore each other's vibrations right over Zoom. We felt the energy. We aren't for everybody. We started off on a mission to help absolutely everybody, and we're open arms. But we realize the people who are going to achieve financial success, they have to have the foundation right. So if somebody comes into the No More 9 to 5 Club and they want our artificial intelligence trading stocks for them, or they want artificial intelligence lead generation, or they want us to help them lower all their bills, while those things are all within our wheelhouse, we want to make sure that the people coming into the club have what really, really matters. We're not putting a band-aid on any bleeding wounds here. We're going to make sure that that foundational vibrational alignment is correct before we start addressing any financial concerns or lead generation concerns or anything like that. The secrets that we have are absolutely amazing. And while we have every intention of sharing them with the world, our whole motto is helping good people do better. So we got to make sure that we lay that foundation right for you, all the people watching this, that you guys are well prepared to receive everything that we're going to be offering.
Perfect. I love it. There's a foundational principle in yoga, one of the traditions that I kind of grew up in, which is before one develops the energetic capacity or the power, what comes before that are disciplines, practices, disciplines, mindsets. In yoga tradition, it's called yama and niyama. And part of that is because, well, if you get this power, what are you going to do with it? Right? You need the foundational understandings, the character, really, to be able to utilize and benefit from and do good with that. So I love that you're preparing people and giving that foundation. So yeah, for anybody that wants to take advantage of Jason's kind offer, thing to do is just reach out to me directly. You can email me, daniel@danielaaron.com. And then, in time, for those watching on the rebroadcast, I'll have a link for you in the comments too on the various platforms if you're looking for it there. So that's also fine. So Jason, I think that brings us along around to, sadly enough, the final question here. You brought so much already. I got one more question for you. It's a big question. It's an impossible sort of question. It's so big that you can't get it right, but that means you can't get it wrong. So would it be okay if I ask you the big question?
I'm ready.
All right. So you've got so much experience, you've got so much knowledge, you've shared so much on this already. If you had to boil all that down into one piece of advice, one thing that you would advise people to do or not do in terms of how to create their most vibrant, thriving life, what's the one thing that you would share?
Remember to smile. It's a good look on you.
That's fantastic. Remember to smile. It's a good look on you. I love it.
That's it. Smile as often as possible.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, it's an interesting thing. Actually studied something called emotions of the face, a researcher that studied different facial expressions and how found out that they are universal across the world. And one of the key learnings in there is that whatever we are feeling is going to show on the face. We might hide it, but it will flash for a second. But what's even cooler, I think, is the flip side is that if we change our face, we change what's happening on the inside. So while on a certain level, what you said might sound simple, and that it is simple and yet incredibly powerful, there's also a deeper teaching around that, which is smile often, because that will change who you are on the inside, which will change everything about what you experience on the outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if we have any other time left, I would say the other one would be fail fast and fail forward. Don't be afraid to be wrong. That's the path to correction.
That's beautiful. Well, and that gets us back to courage. And it's even possible to be smiling as you are failing fast and failing forward and learning.
We talked about that. When we make mistakes, we love it, right, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Because we know we can learn from it and not repeat them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, Jason, thank you so much, not just for, investing this time with us and sharing with the audience, but also for the amount of work that you've done, the generosity that you bring to all of your work and your desire to help people. It's massively important, and I hugely appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Daniel. And to everybody watching, I thank you all. And I hope I get to see y'all on the inside.
Right on, right on. And so for our guests, our audience, whether you're watching live or by rebroadcast, thank you, because it's you doing something about not just an interest in creating a vibrant, thriving life. You're getting the education, and hopefully, please say yes, you're taking the steps, you're taking the action to create your life into vibrancy. That's what we're all about here. And please know that you doing that makes a difference in the world. You are important. You are awesome. You are loved. Thank you for being part of our world. And please continue to make your life a masterpiece. Take care, y'all. Aloha. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.